Welcome to the Bushido Gang. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's AttackonSamurott, bringing you all another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet team building video. So, last time, pretty much, I'm almost done covering Hisuian-Zoroark, so I decided, you know what, I think it might be a good idea to start moving on to another Mon. So the next Mon that I wanted to start making a team builder around was for Hisuian, or it's going to be for Hisuian-Zoroark. Now before we get started with this, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Join my Discord, the Bushido Gang, and subscribe for some more content on my channel. I'm on my way to reaching my sub goal soon of 550. Once we hit 550, I would like to start doing a Let's Play for Pokemon Legends Arceus, having Pachirisu as my starter. I know, very random, but I think that's something I want to try. Just see if that works out. But anyways, so let's talk about Hisuian-Zoroark real quick. So Hisuian-Zoroark, one has one of the most unique, if not the most, actually, yeah, it has pretty much like the most unique typing that we've seen this generation. Like a lot of new type combinations that come out in Gen 9. Again, being, you know, like being Rock Poison and Glamora. What else? Iron Hands being electric and fighting. Ground and fighting and Great Tusk. A couple more options. Oh, Grass Fire as well. It's something that we've been waiting for years. Grass Fire, and two actually, in Villain and an Ogerpon Flame. So yeah. Now with normal and Ghost, normal Ghost does give two very common resistances in Ghost and in Fighting, which are pretty much like two of the most common. And also like one of the more spammable options in OU, or really in general, to be honest. Ghost Fighting coverage is always good no matter what. And the fact that there's a Mon in this meta that can actually check it, or that's actually immune to it, is really good. So I want to talk about a couple sets that Hisuian-Zoroark is capable of doing, and pretty much just give my thoughts on it and just like really, I guess, break down what I think this Mon can really do. Again, so first things first, talking about Hisuian-Zoroark's ability. Its ability is Illusion, which is the same as the original one. So basically, what this ability does is that it gives Zoroark a chance to basically copy, not copy like Imposter, but basically take the form of the last Pokemon that's in the team slot. So let's say you have something like a King Gambit in the last slot of the team, then Zoroark would be taking advantage of that lead. So you have Zoroark in the lead to cover for King Gambit as your lead matchup for whatever the opponent brings against you. So it has its benefits. I do think that depending on the team, again, like one Zoroark is gonna be better than the other. But yeah, again, I'm gonna break these down now. So we're gonna talk about the Choice Scarf set first. So Choice Scarf Hisuian-Zoroark. For one, Zoroark is pretty cool to have fighting coverage here. So again, fighting coverage in Focus Blast is really nice to cover for, again, opposing dark types. So again, covering for things like King Gambit, covering for things like Hisuian-Zoroark, or not Hisuian-Zoroark, my bad, Hisuian-Samurott, and all those things is going to be very key for this set. So definitely want to have the Focus Blast for that. Shadow Ball, on the other hand, just pretty much hits everything neutrally for like a decent amount of damage too. And you got the pivoting option in U-turn, and also Trick to add some more utility as well. So you have the Trick to get momentum on things, which can open up for the rest of the team. Basically having Zoroark be kind of a team player in that sense. And then, you know, you still got the pivoting with U-turn. So when it comes to also team builders for Hisuian-Zoroark, I think it's important that you have one Mon, or you have more than one Mon, or even just one Mon, really. Like, to be more specific, it's very good to have a dark type pair with Hisuian-Zoroark. I don't see too many other options outside of maybe Ghost. So like a dark type and another Ghost type isn't a terrible idea pair with Hisuian-Zoroark, but it is going to be like a little, It is gonna be a bit strange, I'll say that, but it can work. It can definitely work. Um, like for example, if you pair Hisuian-Zoroark with Dragapult, you kind of have like a decent core already. Only being weak to only having that weakness to. Well, I mean, Dragapult's weak to a lot of things. Fairy's like the main one anyway. Um, but still, like having like Dragapult plus Hisuian-Zoroark together can make a nice core in that sense. And then having a pair with a Dark type as well can really work out that core even better since you have that fighting resist already, or that fighting since you have double immunity in fighting, for the both of them anyway. But but yeah, I mean, I guess that could apply with any ghost type really. But with Dragapult, I think it's a bit better since it's the fastest mon in the tier, and being able to just kind of like play off that with the Choice Scarf set can be nice. So you can kind of like play Hisuian-Zoroark as a Dragapult if you have it paired together. Um, but yeah, again, overall, I think Trick is going to be nice with this. Again, giving you momentum to really open up for the rest of the team. And again, the damage output from it is not that bad at all. Now, Hisuian-Zoroark did see some play in the early parts of the OU metagame, before Home came out. Because Hisuian-Zoroark was actually one of the first mons that was part of the release. That was part of the main game release. I believe it might have came out like a month or two after the game came out, after Scarlet and Violet dropped. So it was a very fresh mon then, and a lot of people were excited for it as well, just because of that new typing, just to see like how this mon would really function. And also again, like when it was first revealed in Legends Arceus, like a lot of people were really debating or really like suspecting on how this mon would really be functioning in OU and just like in general. And one of the downsides to Hisuian-Zoroark is that its signature move in Bitter Malice got nerfed pretty heavily. So in Legends Arceus, it was actually a move that lowered the special attack, like the special stat for from the opponent, or the special stat on the opposing side, and it also had the chance, and it also could freeze things as well. Now, freeze in Legends Arceus is basically a status drop, but it also leaves you kind of stunned as well. But again, in game, when it comes to like main game stuff, right? They can't make that broken. Like having a ghost move that can freeze is like pretty broken. But then again, you got a psychic type move that can freeze. But we're not gonna talk about that, right? Granted, that move's not that great, but you get what I'm saying. Would have been nice if Bitter Balance at least like lower special attack more than attack. But again, that's just my take on it. It's not a great move. Again, it definitely got a lot less out of the. It got a lot less compared to the other Hisuian mons that kind of kept their signature move and was able to get more out of it. But yeah, Bitter Malice was one of the nerfs that came to Hisuian-Zoroark. But yeah, again, like I mentioned already, in terms of like having team matchups, having teammates pair with Hisuian-Zoroark, I definitely think that having a Dark type pair with it and having maybe a Ghost could work as well if you want to go a more offensive route, right? But yeah, again, this can work on the Scarf set. You can play it with Dragapult and then kind of like get some surprise KOs, and also you can like kind of fake out the opponent to make them think that you're Dragapult or not. So yeah. We got the spec set. So spec set's gonna be running Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, Hyper Voice, and Grass Knot. So again, similar to what I mentioned already. With the I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. Actually, let me just do that instead. All right. So Hisuian-Zoroark going to be choice specs with Shadow Ball, Flamethrower, Hyper Voice, and Grass Knot. So again, like I mentioned already, with Dragapult, right? Like you can kind of play it the same way as Pult. Not having U-turn and also being slightly slower, or actually significantly slower. But you can kind of play it in the same way as Dragapult. Because again, the damage output on it is not that bad. Again, being base 125, with the choice specs is going to be really nice. And again, also being able to outspeed like a majority of the tier, mainly like the base 100s and below. Like being able to outspeed them is going to be nice. Again, like getting the speed tie or winning getting the upper hand against like Ninetales. And also the upper hand against, well, actually with Wake, actually you can outspeed Wake too. So being able to outspeed Wake outside the sun, not boosted or anything like that's gonna be nice as well, and all the other mons as well. Obviously except for things like like Sneasler and also like speed time with the Ogre Pawns. So and Moth as well, before booster anyway. and yeah. But it is cool to outspeed things like an Amherst though. But again, like that's more and Amherst is mostly Scarf these days. Going off topic, by the way. So, anyways, like I said, Choice Specs isn't too bad. Again, similar to the Choice Scarf set, you can kind of play it in a way to where you can take advantage of the opponent's like predictions and whatnot. Like Hisuian-Zoroark is a mon that, in my opinion, I think it's better when you use it in a situation where you can play it on a prediction or on a switch in, right? So let's say you're fighting something like Great Tusk, and you have King Gambit and Zoroark together. If you have King Gambit, or if you have Zoroark, like as King Gambit, and the Great Tusk goes for CC on your turn, then you can cover for that with Zoroark, and then be able to catch the CC, and then go for a Shadow Ball of your own, or go for an attack of your own at that point. So Specs is pretty deadly. In that regard, and yeah, Shadow Ball is always going to be good, like I mentioned already. Flamethrower is also going to be pretty consistent too. You can put Focus Blast on it too, over Hyper Voice or even over Flamethrower, depending on how like crazy you feel. Yeah, those are just options. Hyper Voice on a Spec set is interesting. I mean, really, it's the only normal stab that this mon can do on the special side, which is a bit unfortunate. It would have been nice if this mon got like something like Boom Burst or anything like that. That would have made it a bit more relevant. But still, Hyper Voice isn't that bad. I kind of wish Hyper Beam was like how it is with the current new moves. Again, like Gigaton Hammer and Blood Moon. I really wish Hyper Voice was like, or Hyper Beam was like that. Because that would be so good. That would be so nice. But unfortunately, Hyper Beam is not that way. Has been that way since Gen 1. But yeah, since Gen 1, where you could actually like use it on a well, I mean, basically how Gen 1 Hyper Beam worked was that every time you got a kill, you'd be able to use it again after that. So like so yeah, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that here. In the current times. But yeah, Hyper Voice isn't that bad if you don't want to go with the normal stab, because I mean normal stab is still like consistent enough. Like it's gonna hit everything still, because that's just what normal stab does. Again, looking back at Rillaboom, or not Rillaboom, my bad. Looking back at Blood Moon, Ursaluna, things like that. Normal stab is still pretty good. Just from that example, but the difference between those two, or between Hisuian-Zoroark and Blood Moon, is that Hisuian Blood Moon hits everything, while Hisuian-Zoroark doesn't. So yeah. Yeah, Hyper Voice isn't that bad. It's consistent. It's consistent enough for the damage, especially if you have chip damage already going on with hazards and whatnot. Grass Knot's gonna be there for Great Tusk, and also covers for things like Dondozo and Walking Wake, and Tanglu. Hits all them heavy shits. So if you got Grass Knot for that, that's nice. Shadow Ball is still okay, but Grass Knot's gonna be able to cover for the later half again like Tanglu and whatnot. If you really want to go that route, you could also go Focus Blast still to cover for it. But yeah, again, like those are some options that you have for the Hisuian-Zoroark. So yeah. It is a mon, like Hisuian-Zoroark it really depends on the set, but I feel like it's personally a mon you can use like in the early game to mid game. But it can also kind of fit in any like position, really. Again, you can go lead with it. You can use it like in the mid game, and it can even still work in the late game as well. Especially if you still have a dark type paired with you, or again like having like a ghost type still too. But mainly having the dark type is gonna be good. Maybe even a fairy. A fairy is a bit odd though. That's a bit odd, but I think you can work that out at least. But again, just barely. A fairy or a fighter, I think you can kind of work that out a bit. But again, like those are going to be very iffy situations. Mainly a dark type is what you want to have. So again, King Gambit is the best candidate for that. But yeah. So again, Specs isn't that bad. Now my favorite set. So I like Nasty Plot a lot. I think the Nasty Plot set is going to be Hisuian-Zoroark's more consistent set, in my opinion. I think this set works very well on more bulky offense sets, or even offensive teams. hyper offense, I mean, hyper offense and also bulky offense. I think Nasty Plot can be a great tool for that. Depending on the lead matchup, right, it can kind of work into hyper offense leads, and it can also work into, again, like, um not as a lead on bulky offense, but it can work like maybe like mid game with bulky offense. But early game, you can definitely get some damage going. You can definitely get some damage going with the sash set. Or again, you can go life orb with it if you're feeling very frisky with that. I'm running boots, so I'm running boots with the Nasty Plot set. Again, Nasty Plot's like very it's very like loose. Like it's loose to the point where you can kind of do whatever. Like you can kind of use like whatever option with it. So again, boots isn't that bad, especially when you have hazards being pretty much like everywhere in OU at the moment. Life orb is always going to be nice. Again, the damage output from +2 Nasty Plot with life orb is going to be nice. Shadow Ball is going to be cooking a lot of things up, and pairing it with flamethrower or hyper voice. Or even, well, not really grass knot, but definitely like hyper voice or a flamethrower is going to be nice for that. But yeah, again, +2 Nasty Plot is going to be very good with life orb. And then Sash, again, Sash can work on hyper offense leads. So if you want to go that route, you can. And just go from that point. But, but yeah. So when you set up with Nasty Plot Zoroark, from my experience, I think it's better when you do it on a choice locked mon. So let's say, again, you're fighting something like Specs Dragapult, or you're fighting something like Scarf Gold, something like that. If they're locked into their move, then you can set up on them at that point. Or again, just get damage or whatever will come in, right? Especially if you're fighting like a more hyper offensive type team, then it's probably better just to go for the damage than go for Nasty Plot. But again, if you do feel like you want a Nasty Plot, you can. It can work on a prediction, or again, it can work on a choice select mon. Those are like the better situations you want to set up with this thing, and then be able to get as much damage as possible with it. So yeah. Again, I already mentioned about Focus Blast, but that's gonna be a really good way to cover for King Gambit and other dark types in the tier. So yeah. Also, another thing to mention about Zoroark is that it is very frail. So this is a mon that you have to play very cautiously with. Like very, very cautiously with. So again, that's why I'm saying that when you use this thing, you wanna try and take advantage of whatever your opponent's doing. So again, using it on a setup opportunity, or using it against like a choice locked mon, or again a prediction is gonna get you the most with Zoroark. You're gonna get the most out of it with Zoroark here. So yeah. Next is gonna be a taunt set. So Nasty Plot taunt, again, similar to the 3 attack Nasty Plot set. Taunt's gonna be there as basically a stall breaking option. So you can use this to stall break through some teams. So again, mostly like again stall teams or a balance. It could be a decent balance breaker. Now with balance, of course, there are things you gotta balance. Well, bulky off. Well, my bad. Let me talk about stall first. With stall, you can easily break through stall with this mon, because for one, when it comes to stall, a lot of the time, they're mainly going to be just chipping you down with hazard chip, and also just like slow chip from things like earthquake from Gliscor, or with Clef of Moonblast, or with Blissey like a toss. Or with Torn, again, if you're running like that regen core with Torn plus Toxapex, pretty much it can just only go for like U-turn or Hurricane. And then with Pex, again, Pex just kind of doesn't do anything. It just serves or goes for Toxic on you, and just kind of like stalls you out at that point. So you got Nasty Plot to at least cover for you have a Taunt plus Nasty Plot to cover for those situations. So more specifically against things like Pex, which are going to be very passive. And even against Blissey too, because Blissey can't even touch Zoroark. So there's that to mention, right? So if you set up on that thing, then it can't do anything to you, and you get free damage whatever would come in. Now obviously unaware mons like Dondozo, or even really actually Dondozo doesn't really count as much. I mean, it does still, because I mean, it can still hit it. Like, it can still, like wave crash, liquidation, whatever to Zoroark. But again, the main thing to get out of that is that you're gonna get damage on it still, but also you can kind of like stop it from doing any like doing any sleep talk loops, and you get momentum at that point. So those are just options to get around stall. And then with bulky, and then with like balance cores, the balance usually runs, like usually has like a default. Well, it could run a defogger, but usually it's gonna be Great Tusk as the spinner to remove hazards. And then you have it paired with something like, usually Great Tusk is paired with something like a water resist. Water resist or like a grass resist, like one of the more common things. Steel or not steel, fair resist too. So again, like Pult is gonna be like a good example of that, since it can cover for like some of his weaknesses anyway. At least like in the common like water and grass coverage there. Not ice though. With ice, you want to pair that with the water. So a good water paired with Great Tusk would be something like, again, if you're going like balanced, then probably like a Lola for the wish support, or even like Samurott as well would be a decent coverage option in that respect. But again, that's like more in like a balanced kind of situation. So yeah, again, you can just Naz plot against that and also taunt it as well. And another thing to mention is that this is a spin blocker too. So this mon is always gonna have just a little bit more. It's gonna have a good chunk of utility for it to still get some kind of momentum going. But yeah, again, Shadow Ball Flamethrower is gonna be nice. Again, it's always been consistent coverage with Fire Ghost coverage. So we'll get a lot out of it with the Naz Plot set plus taunt. And yeah, again, this set can fit on I was gonna say balance, but I think bulky offense is better for this set alone. But you could argue it could work on hyper offense as well. Just as again like as a way to stop opposing hazards from going up. So again, things like Lamora lead, things like what's another one? Things like Great Tusk. Treads, just to some extent anyway, because it's gonna be faster because of booster energy. But just being able to stop things from setting up is always gonna be key, especially in this metagame right now where setup is pretty much like free on everything. So you want to have taunt to stop something. Next is gonna be the last. So this one is because this one's more of like a kind of you can do whatever you want with it. Actually, there's more than that, but I'm gonna add Hex and I'm also gonna add Wisp on this set. So going back to the boot set, or to one of the boot sets, I feel like you could run Hex. Like you could probably do something like this with Hex. Zoroark isn't terrible. Again, it's not gonna be Pult. It's not Pult. It's definitely not Pult, but it can work. Maybe more like if you're using like a more like hazard like T-Spike heavy like team. You could probably do something like this with it. So again, you could probably do a set like this. Maybe run Flamethrower to kind of like play it off as a Dragapult still. But again, like if you don't want to use Pult, then you have this option still. Running again like pretty much like a 3-attack set with a Hex to take advantage of status. This can actually work against Gliscor, which is very common right now. So being able to hit that through its taunt is not that bad at all. And yeah, you'll get some decent chip on that, and also you could potentially burn whatever would come in too. So it's not that bad, right? But again, like I said, this could kind of play off as like a Dragapult in a sense. So you have that to kind of work with at least. And yeah. Now going back to this set right here, this one is more of it's kind of like a miscellaneous kind of thing. Like it could kind of be. This one's really more like an experimental kind of situation. So. SD Poltergeist. Besides Ceruledge, there aren't too many mons in the tier right now that have Poltergeist plus setup. So Zoroark is going to be one of the few mons that can actually run that. That can actually run this set. So I just want to say that I think this is okay. It's okay to test with, right? Because again, +2 Swords Dance. Or +2 Poltergeist on most things is still going to do a lot of damage. Even though, Zoroark has a very, like, it's not like a bad attack stat. Again, base 100 is not bad. It can still be, it's still workable. You can definitely make it work still. But again, like I said, +2 with Poltergeist is still gonna hurt something, right? It's still gonna be able to hurt something. Now, if you're running an SD set, I suggest that you pair this with a dark type that can set up 2. So again, King Gambit is a good example of that. Crawdon's another good example too if you're using it in UU. Or again, if you want to use it in OU, you could definitely pair it with Crawdon and kind of like make plays with that. Make the opponent think that you're gonna go for like a fighting move or something like that, or make the opponent like make them go for a fighting move on you. Then you take advantage of that turn, especially because they don't think you're faster anyway. So you can kind of play off that to your advantage, which is why I think something like I think a set like low kick with this. Plus, it really sucks this one didn't get Sucker Punch like the original one did. I think I would have liked Sucker Punch a lot on this kind of set. But you have Sneak to cover for that still, so you have Sneak to work with. Now, what's just another Dark type move, but like obviously the one you could use is Knockoff, but can't use Knockoff when you're using Poltergeist, so it's kind of counterintuitive. Probably best to use against Shadow Sneak, or maybe go like if you're really desperate, you can go Lash Out. If you're very desperate to go Lash Out, Crunch isn't that bad either, but again. If you want priority, go Sneak. Sneak is going to be good. It's still going to be like good enough for it. +2 Sneak with this is still going to do some damage. You can also run this with Life Orb. You can run this with Spell Tag if you want to get the most amount of damage with Ghost coverage. So those are some options. I feel like this might be better in RU and U. I mean, this might be better in UU and RU compared to using this in OU. But like again, it's just a fun little thing that this mon has the capacity to do. It's not something you have to like really like commit to anyway, right? But it's still something that's like something you can still test out anyway. But yeah, if you want to make it even better, you could probably go something like Terra Ice or even Terra Fairy to at least get something more out of it. So again, you can get like a stab Fairy, you can get a stab +2 Terra Blast on something, and just get as much damage as possible, whatever the mon would be. So like, let's say for example, it's like a dark type, then you could Terra Fighting, be able to low kick them, or if it's something again, well, pretty much again whatever Terra it is, like Zoroark will get the most out of it. Besides it being like Ghost, I don't think Ghost with SD would really work out. I definitely think you want to pair with you want to have it be at least like either be fighting or have it be like some other resist to dark. Like Fairy, so you could do that. You can you have those options. So yeah. Now one more honorable mention. I forgot to mention that I think you could also run for the Scarf set and even for the Spec set. I think you could run Curse on this too. You could probably run Curse over Trick, or you could probably run Curse over Trick. That way you'll be able to still get momentum on whatever the mon is. So again, being able to weaken them, which opens up for the rest of your team, the team is going to be really, really nice. So again, Curse can help with lowering the HP of mons, and then that gives you momentum at that point. Same with the Spec set. Again, you can do the same thing as well and drop Hyper Voice or Grass on, then put Curse on it. Because by the way, Curse does go through. I believe it goes through Garg. Yeah, it does go through Garg. So you can have Curse to cover things like Garganackle. I think it also works on Golden Go as well. So you can also use Curse to cover for that too. So again, those are some options that actually I don't think Curse works on Golden Go. No, it doesn't work on Golden Go, my bad. But it does work on it should work on Golden Go though, but I don't think it does. But I know Curse works on Garganackle though. I've tested that before. It did do some work against it. Granted, it was a different mon. I was actually using Dragapult when I was trying Curse, but yeah, I think it could work on this mon as well. So yeah. Now I do have a couple teams in mind with Hisuian-Zoroark. Also, I want to mention that this is one of the earlier teams that people were using in the beginning of the meta when Zoroark first dropped. It was a spec set too. It was a spec set, but I don't remember what the other mons on this team were. If someone in the comments could let me know what the last one on this team was, I'd appreciate that. I feel like it might have been either Garganackle or it might have been. I feel like it was Garg actually. Because I don't remember Greatest being a spinner on, or being a rock shooter on this team. It might have been just a bulk up. It might have been just the early bulk up set that everyone was running. Like in the early parts of the metagame. I think it might have been that and then Guard together. But again, I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments below what this team was. If you know, you get a cookie. If you know, you get a cookie. But yeah. For teams that I have in mind with Zoroark, there's actually one that I may be using. Just to start off the Zoroark kind of train. I'm not gonna tell you everything about this team, obviously, but just know that I already had the idea planned to have again like the fighting and the dark type to cover for Hisuian-Zoroark's weaknesses. But also again like to kind of play off that play off of its typing. So yeah, again have the dark type to cover for, or have the dark type to cover for the Ghost, and also the cover for the Psychic weakness that Great Tusk has, and also Ice weakness as well that Great Tusk has. So Kingambit covers for that, and then Great Tusk covers for Kingambit's weaknesses, and in like physical fires, ground and whatnot. So yeah. And for this set specifically with Hisuian-Zoroark, this one is gonna be more towards. It's gonna be more of a mid to late game on this team, just because I already have so much offensive potential or offensive momentum with this team anyway. Again, I'll show this team off in a live at some point, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But it's definitely I definitely had some success with it, and it was pretty fun for me. So yeah, that should be that for the Showdown live. If you guys enjoyed it and want to see me do more team building vids, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Join my Discord, the Bushido Gang, and subscribe for some more content on the channel. On my way to reaching my sub goal soon of 550. If we can hit 550 before the end of November, then I will do a Let's Play of Legends Arceus featuring Pachirisu as my starter. So that's gonna be that. I'll see y'all for some more shit on lives. Be safe, watch your ends, and peace out.